Right. Before you start panicking and checking if this is some sort of alternate reality where politicians actually face consequences for their actions, let me stop you right there. Keir Starmer hasn't actually suspended Sadiq Khan, but honestly, with the absolute chaos that's about to unfold on Oxford Street, you'd be forgiven for thinking Westminster might want to distance themselves from this spectacular political gamble. What we do have is Sadiq Khan going full steam ahead with what might be the most ambitious, or potentially disastrous, transformation of London since someone decided the Millennium Dome was a good idea. We're talking about turning Oxford Street, the beating heart of London's shopping empire, into a pedestrian paradise. And before you ask, yes, this means saying goodbye to cars, buses, and basically anything with wheels that isn't a mobility scooter or a very determined shopping trolley. Picture this. You're standing at Marble Arch, looking down what used to be one of the world's busiest shopping streets, now transformed into Britain's answer to a European plaza. Sounds lovely, doesn't it? Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because we're about to dive into a story that involves £25 billion, 6,642 very opinionated Londoners, and a mayor who's apparently watched one too many episodes of European city planning documentaries. But here's the kicker, and this is where it gets properly juicy. Khan isn't just suggesting this transformation, he's bulldozing ahead with it faster than a Black Friday shopper heading for the last discounted telly. The Greater London Authority has already initiated a tender process to appoint not one, but TWO design teams who will be responsible for reshaping London's most famous shopping destination. That's right, they're so confident about this plan they are hiring backup designers, like having 2 wedding planners for your marriage. Because what could possibly go wrong? Now, you might be thinking, hang on, surely the people of London were consulted about this monumental change. Well, funny you should ask. Khan did indeed run a consultation between February and May 2025, and the results are, well, let's just say they're interesting in a way that watching someone attempt to parallel park is interesting. Out of 6,642 submissions from residents, businesses, trade unions, and accessibility organizations, basically everyone except your nan who still thinks the internet is a fishing net, approximately 70% of Londoners supposedly support this car ban. Now, that sounds impressive until you realize that's about the same percentage of people who say they exercise regularly while simultaneously ordering takeaway for the 4th night running. But here's where Khan's master plan gets properly ambitious. And by ambitious, I mean potentially catastrophic in the most entertaining way possible. This isn't just about closing off a small section of road. Oh no, that would be far too sensible. We're talking about pedestrianising nearly a mile of Oxford Street, from Marble Arch all the way to Tottenham Court Road. That's enough space to fit approximately 17 football pitches, or if you prefer a more London-centric measurement, about 3,000 Boris Johnson bikes laid end to end. The mayor, bless his optimistic cotton socks, has been painting this transformation as London's answer to New York's Fifth Avenue and Paris's Champs-Élysées. Because apparently, what Oxford Street was really missing was the ability to compete with international shopping destinations where you can't grab a quick McDonald's without dodging traffic that moves slower than a parliamentary debate about tax reform. Khan declared with the enthusiasm of someone who's definitely never tried to get a delivery truck through central London. Oxford Street has suffered over many years, so urgent action is needed to give our nation's high street a new lease of life. He wants to create a world-class, accessible, pedestrianized avenue that will attract international visitors and act as a magnet for new investment and job creation. It's like it's describing a dating profile for a street. Swipe right for economic prosperity and al fresco dining opportunities. Now, let's talk numbers, because nothing says well-thought-out plan quite like the financial figures behind this urban experiment. Oxford Street currently generates an estimated £25 billion annually for London's economy. That's more money than some small countries see in a decade, and it's all flowing through one street that's about to undergo the urban planning equivalent of cosmetic surgery. But here's the thing that makes this whole situation beautifully bonkers. Oxford Street has been struggling in recent years due to the pandemic and the rise of online shopping. So, naturally, the solution is to make it even harder for people to access by removing all the vehicles. It's like trying to fix a leaky roof by removing the tiles. Technically innovative, potentially disastrous. The consultation results paint an interesting picture of London's democratic process in action. When asked about establishing a mayoral development area, 69% expressed support, while 66% backed the pedestrianisation principle. These figures mysteriously increased to 70% and 67% respectively when campaign responses were included, which sounds about as transparent as a politician's expense account. But wait, there's more. Khan isn't content with just pedestrianising the street. He's also written to Westminster City Council proposing that Oxford Street becomes a Greater London Authority road. This would make Transport for London the Highway Authority, which is essentially Khan saying, not only am I going to transform this street, but I also want to be the one in charge of it. It's the political equivalent of asking to borrow your mate's car, and then suggesting you should probably keep the keys permanently for safekeeping. The transformation plans are nothing if not ambitious. They are talking about creating space for commercial activation, outdoor events, and al fresco dining, because nothing says successful urban planning quite like turning Britain's premier shopping street into an outdoor restaurant where it rains 200 days a year. I can already picture tourists huddled under umbrellas, trying to enjoy their overpriced coffee while pigeons stage a coordinated assault on their croissants. Will Norman, London's walking and cycling commissioner, yes, that's actually someone's job title, describe the opportunity as really exciting for the design teams. His welcoming bid for this fast-paced project that aims to build a world-class retail, hospitality, and visitor destination. The phrase fast-paced is particularly amusing when you consider they are essentially planning to remove all the fast-paced vehicles from the area. The program's objectives read like an urban planner's wish list written after watching too many Scandinavian city design documentaries. They want to create a high-quality, safe, sustainable, and climate-resilient public realm, which sounds lovely until you remember this is London, where the climate's idea of resilience involves rain that comes at you sideways and wind that can relocate small children. But let's think about the practical implication for a moment, shall we? Oxford Street currently handles thousands of vehicles daily, buses, taxis, delivery trucks, and the occasional lost tourist who thought their GPS was taking them to Oxford University. Where exactly are all these vehicles supposed to go? Are they going to magically evaporate, or will they simply relocate to the surrounding streets, turning them into vehicular overflow areas that make rush hour look like a leisurely Sunday drive? The pedestrianisation plan specifically targets closing the section between Orchard Street and Oxford Circus, extending to Great Portland Street. That's the heart of the shopping district, the bit where most people actually want to go. It's like deciding to pedestrianise the pitch at Wembley Stadium and then wondering why the players are having trouble getting there for matches. What's particularly fascinating about this whole endeavour is the timeline. The process began in August. Contract for selected design teams are expected to commence in September, and further public consultation on traffic arrangements is scheduled for later this year. This is moving faster than a Londoner crossing the street when they spot a traffic warden, and with about the same level of careful consideration. The two design teams will have distinctly different roles, one focusing on the initial phase between Orchard Street and Great Portland Street, while the other creates a comprehensive concept design for the entire stretch. It's like having one person design the kitchen while another designs the entire house. Coordination is going to be absolutely crucial, and if there's one thing government projects are famous for, it's seamless coordination between different teams. The mayor's vision includes positioning Oxford Street to rival international shopping destinations, but there's a fundamental question lurking beneath all this optimism. What happens to all the businesses that rely on vehicle access? The restaurants that need deliveries, the shops that require stock replenishment, the accessibility needs of disabled visitors? These aren't minor logistical hiccups. They're the kind of challenges that can turn a well-intentioned transformation into an urban planning nightmare. Khan's enthusiasm for this project is palpable, but there's something almost endearing about the way he is approaching this massive undertaking with the confidence of someone who's never had to parallel park in central London during rush hour. The idea of creating an attractive, inclusive space suitable for commercial activation sounds wonderful in theory, but the devil, as they say, is in the delivery trucks that can no longer actually deliver anything. The comparison to Fifth Avenue and Champs-Élysées is particularly ambitious when you consider that those streets weren't built as major traffic artery for a city of 9 million people. They evolved differently, with different infrastructure, different weather, and probably different expectations about what constitutes a successful shopping experience. Trying to retrofit Oxford Street into a Parisian boulevard is like trying to turn a black cab into a gondola, theoretically possible, but missing some fairly fundamental compatibility issues. What makes this story even more entertaining is the apparent certainty with which it's all being approached. There's no let's try a small pilot program, or perhaps we should test this on a less crucial street first. Nope. Khan has decided that London's most famous shopping street is going to be the testing ground for this grand urban experiment. Consequences be damned. The public consultation process, while impressive in its scope with over 6,000 submissions, raises some interesting questions about representation. Were these mostly from people who live and work in central London, or did they include perspectives from across Greater London? When you're making changes to a street that affects millions of people annually, the voices you listen to matter quite a bit. As we watch this transformation unfold over the coming months, we're essentially witnessing a real-time case study in ambitious urban planning. Will Khan's vision create a world-class destination that rivals the best shopping streets globally? Or will it become a cautionary tale about the dangers of grand gestures in city planning? Either way, it's going to be absolutely fascinating to watch, preferably from a safe distance with popcorn and a comfortable chair. Thanks for watching UK Pancakes, where we serve up political drama with a side of urban planning chaos. Hit that subscribe button because, trust me, this Oxford Street saga is just getting started, and you won't want to miss what happens next.